Now, a major budget shortfall estimated to hit $3 billion for the state of Maryland, but Governor Wes Moore is proposing some sweeping cuts totaling $2 billion. Joining us this morning for this week's State House Spotlight, Democrat Delegate Melissa Wells representing Baltimore City, Republican Delegate Ryan Nawrocki representing Baltimore County. Delegates, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Delegate Wells, I want to start with you first on this. We have $2 billion with the B coming from Governor Moore. We're not exactly sure where he's going to cut it. That leaves you in the legislature to come down with and say, okay, the General Assembly now needs to get another $1 billion cut off of this. Any particular area where you see some fluff where you think it should be cut?
Thank you so much. So, we know that we have a very precarious fiscal outlook ahead of us this year. I think that we are going to need to make sure that we're looking at what's working for the state. We're going to need to make sure that we're looking at protecting investments and identifying what are the core investments that we need to continue to make as a state that's going to help us grow our economy. And so, albeit while we have to use a scalpel-like approach in order for us to cut the budget, we want to make sure we don't jeopardize our major arteries as a state. And so I know on the table there's conversations around how we look at the blueprint. I think that it's going to be imperative that we make sure we prioritize the most vulnerable of our young people, especially the concentration of poverty aspect of the formula, as well as our disability, our special education students. We also need to make sure that we're looking at our major infrastructure here in the state. We know that what makes businesses stay and relocate is a robust infrastructure network that does work. And so we want to make sure that we're not jeopardizing those major investments that are critical and crucial to our success and economic future.
Thank you, Delegate Wells. Delegate Nawrocki, you just heard what Delegate Wells was talking about. Do you see any other areas, or do you disagree with some of those?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with being focused on our cuts. You do want to take a scalpel, but I will say that we know that we have a structural deficit, and the long-term driver that is the blueprint or the Kirwan plan, whatever you want to call that. We have to look at that plan. So that's first and foremost. We have to look at how that's going to affect our long-term outlook. Look, the governor's also got a plan in place to try to cut $50 million out of the overall budget and efficiencies, and I fully support that. But we need to do more than that. There's more than $50 million to be gained in an overall $64 billion budget. We need to be looking more at those kinds of things as well. Look, this is a legislatively created situation here. Look, the economy is good. Typically, you see these situations when the economy is not good. Right. We just had a good jobs report. Unemployment is at 4.1%. That's a relatively low historic number there. So this is a problem that we've created that we need to get ourselves out of here.
Do you think 90 days is going to be enough to get this done, though?
We have to. We're not the federal government. We cannot just print money. We cannot run deficits. We have to get this done. We have to have a balanced budget.
Delegate Wells, last question for you then. The blueprint, the Kirwan, the same thing that we're talking about here. We've heard a lot of arguments saying the next couple of years are already paid for from that, and next year's paid for. So will that immediately impact, though, the $3 billion that we need to be cut?
I mean, if we're looking at the structural cuts that have to be made, and I think some of the things that are on the table, proposals that are on the table that could impact the blueprint, I think the bottom line is that we have to find new revenue streams as a state. That has been a through line for several sessions now, and we also need to make sure that we are not we should be asking for folks to pay their fair share. So I know there's a lot of proposals on the table around making the wealthiest of Marylanders and corporations pay. I think that we need to make sure that we have a balanced approach to these cuts, and that we're not asking average, everyday Marylanders to pay for this.
And Delegate Wells, Delegate Nawrocki.